All right, let's do a little bit of exploring for the cube root function. But before we do that, I want to just kind of show you the cube function. So you have a general idea of what happens with the cube function. Notice that the cube function is always increasing. So we always start from here and then we see what's happening. It's always going up. It runs through 0, 0. That's important. And then you'll notice that when x is 1, of course, 1 cubed is 1. This is 1, 1 right here. If I click on that, whoops, it's close. Not quite, but you'll notice that if I can get it up, there we go, 1, 1. And then when x is 2, 2 cubed is 8. So if you notice here, this one should be 2, 8. A little bit, there we go, 2, 8. Okay, so everything is cubed, so that's what's happening with this particular function, and so on. And of course, if we were to go down and look at -1, so when x is -1, you'll notice that y is -1, which of course it should be. If you plug it in there into that equation, that's what we should get. And then if we go all the way down here to 8, whoops, and you can kind of see it there. I think that stop sharing thing is kind of interrupting it, but I can see a -2, -8 down there. So that's the cube function. So this function, you notice, is kind of a little bit different. I'm going to change that just a little bit. I'll show you how to do that. We're going to change it over to black. But you'll see the function here. This is the inverse or the cube root function. I'm going to get rid of that one. And so now we can see that. So what's the difference between those? Notice that when we did, 1 to 1, that's still the same. -1 to -1, that's still the same. But this time now, if we go up to 2 and we go over to 8, we can see that it's over here instead of up here. So notice here, this is 8, 2, not 2, 8. I can get there. That is never, there you go. It goes 8, 2. And then when we were looking at the cube function, it was 2, 8. Because remember that the inverse changes the x and y values. Okay, so what do we know about this particular function now? We know that some pieces of information about it first, that the domain and range and the intercepts, so we can kind of see some things here. So it intercepts at the 0, 0. So this is both the x and the y intercept. The domain runs from -infinity all the way over here to +infinity, and it runs all the way from -infinity down all the way up to +infinity. So it's full spectrum domain and range in that particular case. The beginning and end functions, so that's what we're going to look at next. So beginning and end, you'll notice at the beginning, as x goes this way, y goes down. So as x goes to -infinity, y goes to -infinity. As x goes to +infinity, y goes to +infinity. Notice that it is increasing because it goes from this way, always from left to right. It's increasing all the time. You might be slow here, and then all of a sudden it goes really fast, and then it slows down again. But it's still increasing all the time. Okay, so you'll notice on increasing and decreasing, it always increases. And then positive and negative and symmetry. So notice here that above here, anything greater than x, when x is greater than or equal to 0, so as x gets larger and larger, it stays positive. As x gets smaller and smaller, it's negative. So it's negative for x is below 0. It is positive when x is greater than 0. And then the last thing that we take a look at besides those is the symmetry. So if we take a look at the symmetry in this particular case, it's what is known as symmetrical around the origin. That you should just memorize. So it's always symmetrical around this particular point. So if I were to draw a 45-degree kind of mirror here, well, it's actually not even a mirror line. It's actually just at this point. If I had just a point mirror, then you could see that this actually is symmetrical over it. Is that a big deal? No, not really. So don't worry about that too much, but that's what they point out in the book. Okay, so that is what is known as my parent function. So that's what actually I walk through. I want to make sure that you understand what the parent function looks like. And then we're going to do a problem. I want you to be able to see that particular problem. And then we're going to do one more problem. So we have one more video that'll give you a couple of problems from the homework.